Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure for me to be here and to discuss with you the big data activities, which we understand very strongly as multilingual data activities. I will not discuss in my contribution today the reorganization of the DG and the new concept of the unit. I did it in Warsaw with many of you. We did it in June in the LT Summit, LT Innovate Summit. I would like to focus on future opportunities to put all of these activities that the unit and beyond is offering at European level in the context. And I would like to link also to your main point of big data. Before starting, I would like to thank Dr. Gördeler on the one hand for the good cooperation. It is very enriching and it is very useful to have member states and ministries interested and collaborating at this level, and it gives additional motivation for us also to go beyond just European funds, but really to think in bigger scale. In this mean, we are thinking in a private partnership, public partnership around the big data, and hereby we would like to see Germany and the Smart Data Initiative as an important co-driver and collaborator. Additionally, a special thank also to you, Mr. Gördeler, and to the House for the co-hosting. I know that the Meta project has been closed. There are other projects, but it is very positive to see that the community and this series of events are not linked only to the funding. They are not depending only on this funding, but your presence demonstrates me the interest and the drive beyond. And also a special thank to Hans, who is one of the big drivers that we see in the research and innovation field of this Meta, and also has a big part of it that all of this can be done with meeting commissioner and upcoming event of the Parliament. I really liked your title of the conference, Connecting Europe for New Horizons. Why? Because it implicates also already a link to two major future European activities also. One, what has been mentioned, the Connecting Europe facility, at least I heard it, maybe I am a bit with special hearing it that mean, and the New Horizons, which implicate also a view towards the Horizon 2020 activities. In the next about 20 minutes, I would like to describe you what do we understand about the data value chain, about the big data, multilingual data, what we would like to get out of it, and why does it matter for Europe? Which kind of virtuous cycle of multilingual data we are addressing and how, and some future challenges like H2020 and Connecting Europe Facility program, with some speculations because the final decision making has not been done yet. So just I would like to loudly speculate with you on some possible expected requirements, etc. And let me then conclude with some elements which invites for future collaboration and future paths. Why do we care on the data value? Because we believe that today, not only in Europe, but especially in Europe, we don't reach all of the potentials which is embedded as knowledge, as information, as potential application or potential growth in data insight. And this is why we defined a vision to extract the maximum value from data, building on intelligent use, reuse, linkage of data sources across Europe, across sectors, across any areas in the economy and the society. We believe that it will lead to increased business intelligence. Dr. Gördeler has mentioned robotics and cloud, but far beyond, if you think on healthcare, for example, and a better efficiency of the private sector itself, not only to new opportunities, but also in the public sector. If we think on evidence-based decision-making, for example, or better transparency, better decision going. For all of us, for citizens, but also for institutions, new world-class applications and services will be very important outcome, and we should address very strongly our societal challenges of climate change, of cities' growing size and activities. Each of these challenges is related to multilinguality. How to manage a city having sometimes 60 or 100 different nationalities, languages, plus tourists, without taking care of the differences in languages. And additionally, even in the monolingual context, is very important to go and support the language technologies. If we ask ourselves, how does it link to any of the European policies or activities? Is there any aim or any support for these, or is it somewhere embedded in the policies? And then at European level, I can confirm you that even if multilinguality is not as a special term mentioned in the policies, it is embedded and highly requested to develop further to be able to manage the highest policy of the European Union called Europe 2020, addressing smart and sustainable growth, creating new jobs and address the sustainability of the society. Very importantly is addressed in digital agenda, openly and very clearly in sense of open data, open government data and its reuse, but also it's addressed by the digital single market and also by entrepreneurship, opportunities and business intelligence. A special effort was taken by the Council in the meantime a couple of months ago, reinvented again, to make more effort to develop the digital single market. And the October European Council will be focusing on ICT, and half of the discussion will be with the heads of state on the topic, how can we reach the digital single market? And beyond the usual research innovation collaborations, we've managed to put in the agenda the big data and also the language as barriers and as future enabling technologies and enabling opportunities for that. We are very curious to see the outcome, and we will brief you, of course, as soon as possible on it. I've mentioned to you that the data has become so important. From economic terms, we believe that it has become already a resource, like we have the money, we have the human resources, and for everyone's life, from everyone's management is very important to take care on data, independently of the types of the data, whether it is a publicly funded data, it's machine-generated data, is it personal generated data, and independently from the sector or from the background of this data which they originate. It's very important to support, beyond the availability of these data, also the reuse and combination, the different types of data. I've just mentioned the city management. If we consider that we would use different data sources publicly available, how better we could arrange our parking opportunities in the cities, or how much more efficient could work the different institutions, the different services of the city and utilities, for example, if they would not need each of them to collect each of our data. If you think you have to move to manage and you have to go to each utility one by one, deliver the same data, prove your identity, if we would manage a common data in these. And we believe that the competitive advantage of industry and regions will depend on the handling of data, of the multilingual data, of course. as by any resources and by any important development, we are facing externalities. We see, and I have addressed so far mainly the positives, the opportunities, the reuse, the business, societal challenges and opportunities. But we are facing also by the big data, and I'm sure you are following closely, negative externalities like privacy. If we just see the word of NSA developments, or reuse or misuse in some cases of the data. Our aim is hereby to capture the good externalities, to support them, to strengthen it, and to work towards to avoid the bad one. Not in the mean to ignore it, but in the sense to create a policy environment, a legislative environment, and a law which will support it accordingly. If we go to the big data or data value chain, what are European challenges? There are some challenges for individuals, there are some challenges for institutions, private and public, but special European challenges. I've put on the last stage, but today, of course, this is on the first stage, the multilinguality of Europe and the multilingualism in the culture, in the economy, and in the communication to address. Another is, as just mentioned, the legal and policy environment. We believe that it needs to give some impulses at European level to discuss with the national authorities and to come up with adequate solutions, to support competence in the area of multilingual data. Hereby I mean, for example, the skills. We get always the feedback that we don't have in Europe enough skilled persons. They could deal in business environment, for example, with the data, with the huge data, with the diversity of the data, and to put it in a context that it can generate more sense and more added value out of it. Last but not least, a long time discussed element is interoperability, which is to understand among the data, but among the services also, which we are discussing since years and years, but I do believe that the topic is at least as actual today than as it was 5 years ago. After setting the data value chain and the more important elements of big data, I would like to move towards a cycle to describe you how in the Commission the Unidata value chain tries to address the data issue in a way, in a coherent way with different tools and methods which should lead and deliver support to your community. We have developed a vision on data for growth and jobs. We would like to address and believe that this vision needs additional policy developments and deployment of these policies. It will require special research, innovation, impulses, and funding at European level. The data will need also an infrastructure setting up support, and then we will come to the cycle that we will have a more efficient, better data management, better multilingual opportunities in Europe, which will create as new challenges to be addressed at the framework level and at the policy level. If we focus on the 3 main pillars, on the policy, infrastructure, and research innovation, I would like to go very briefly through the first 2 and address more the third one. By the creation of data value chain friendly policy environment, we are fostering and we are supporting the more intensive reuse and support of the data, open data and business data. The main policy hereby is the Public Sector Information Directive, which has been just revised and which should support you and everyone in Europe to get additional data which is generated by public tax money, taxpayer money. I don't want to go into the details of the directive, but I do believe that is very important source for business and also public administration if we merge the different data sources and the data kinds. Even public authorities are focusing today more on our thematic data, and if we could merge it in the future among the different areas, but also as opportunity for business actors, for SMEs, but also big companies, it will offer great opportunities for all of us. The stakeholder involvement is extremely important hereby. Some events were mentioned already. I will come back at the end of the presentation to these. But at this stage, I just would like to underline once more that your feedback, your contribution, and your engagement in setting up of these initiatives and managing it is very important. I've mentioned a couple of seconds ago that open data or public data is very important. Why do we believe it in Europe that it is very important? It's very important because there is a huge untapped business and economic opportunity. There is an OECD study carried out by Professor Vicari, who considers that if we would use better our open data in Europe, we could generate yearly 140 billion euros added value additional businesses and activities. And it was carried out by EU27 without Croatia. So these figures comes from 2 years ago. As an example, in the Netherlands, in the geo sector, already in 2008, were 15,000 jobs generated or created by better use of the geodata, with focusing on it. And it led also to some worldwide well-known companies in the geodata, if you think on your traffic management, for example. Open data enables also the better governance and citizen empowerment, better transparency, what is going on, for what are the spendings in the different areas, what are the developments in the society, if someone is interested to know where is the criminal statistic, higher or lower is an opportunity. As mentioned before, open data can also support societal challenges as health, for example, the public health data, in which regions, why are special sicknesses more often, can be linked to the individual health data, can support it also in the healthcare, the doctors. And last but not least, the scientific progress is depending on a better big data management in this sense. Moving to the infrastructure part, it's very important to develop at European level a digital service infrastructure which will foster new services and opportunities. And in our context of the two-day conference, in two means. In one, open data portals at local, regional, national, and European level should be put together to a European infrastructure and offer a multilingual data source for reuse. And secondly, and this is the biggest challenge for us, an enabled and multilingual access to online services for all. And it will require very strongly the language technology development and uptake far beyond the open data in any of the upcoming services, independently whether it will be a health sector, a health service, or a business registry, European or other services. The European Commission has already started to put some good examples hereby. The European Commission portal was launched last year. This year we have been working on an enlargement to a European portal, bringing together, for the time being, restricted number of different local, regional, and national portals to offer a playground for scientists, but also for SMEs and for researchers to work and test on it. The European open data infrastructure should be fulfilled and further developed in the Connecting Europe facility program to reach the European scale, to ensure better interoperability of data sets, easier work across languages, but also to set up similar conditions, rules, and support the same chances for all. I will come back in a bit later on the CEF development. For the time being, I would like to describe you the research and innovation, ongoing activities, and outlook. We have started to work towards and support complex and large amount of data research and innovation about 8 years ago, no, 5-6 years ago. The rest it was more general. In both contexts, in the multilinguality and also in the data-driven intelligent context. And now in the new context, it's very important that we address it as a one package, as one challenge, and that we will think also towards the kind of bubblefish thinking. What has been done in the data field? In the last program in FP7, 5 different calls addressed it. We have been funding more than 80 projects in this field at European level, more than 600 contractors in Europe and beyond, and what is a nice figure also, about 1,500 full-time equivalent researchers, SMEs, industry jobs were finance or co-finance in this sense. I've listed here the different topics which were the main focus of these calls. I would like just to mention the special element of big data, real time, and the different sides of data, but I put all of them here for possible reuse after the presentation will be published. At this time, separated just to show to your community, because your main background community is the language technology community. The Commission relaunched the funding in 2008. Since that time, there is a funding about 160 million euros for the different elements in research, but also innovation elements of language technologies. And what I very welcome and very appreciate also the language resource building, because it has to be and has to go hand in hand in this sense. You have mentioned standardization and exchange of best practices. I think it will be very important next step also to deepen it in both linked to big data, but also inside of the language community. You might be also interested on the last figures of the last 2 years of funding. In the last 2 years, we have been funding 100 million euro projects in the field of the data handling technologies. And this year, and this is a very heavy year for us, I can tell you, and I'm sure you believe it, but a very challenging and a very promising for the outcome for Europe. We have had 4 calls, more or less in parallel, which gave you also the challenge to apply for these calls, but also a very tense support of the community in both areas and in a comprehensive way for data and languages. We have been negotiating 48 projects and contracting this year, which is an extremely large number. And if you compare that, we have additionally about 100, 120 running projects in the portfolio. We will come to the largest ICT portfolio on research and innovation in Europe at all in the whole program. But it's also very important that both areas, the language technologies and the big data, have been taken up in the H2020, which will be the next research, development and innovation program of the European Union. As all of you know, I am sure. I just would like to underline hereby the innovation element also. In the past, especially in the language technologies, more funding, more attention was given to the research and development field, and the innovation was restricted to due to the CIP to areas including the public sector. Now in H2020, we would like to put a strong effort, and especially in the data field, also on the innovation element. Our main place in the work of H2020 will be the middle one, the competitive industries. The program will be called Leadership in Enabling and Industrial Technologies. In 2 years from now, everyone will only to speak about the LIGHT program. And in this LIGHT program, we will address the data also in the sense of research, fundamental new methods in the data, multilingual data, but the main effort should be put, and this is a speculation that we expect to come up from the new work programs, on cross-border, cross-lingual services. And this should really lead us to real tangible outcomes, bringing even closer the data and the data and the language community. We expect also work towards the bubblefish in a starting mode to address the main barrier of the interactions beyond also the translation, which is more focused, will be more focused in the infrastructure program of CEF. In the new program, there will be also tools to facilitate access to risk and finance and to provide special support on the SMEs. As outlook to the CEF, I would like to highlight the element that the automated translation will be a building block. It should serve to all of the other services. It should enable the success of the others. So hereby, at this stage, we are the service delivering to each of the other service. And in the second step, I hope to reach a level of success that we will go also beyond and can offer the automated translation and language resources for business as a special infrastructure itself also. We will address and should address all of the languages, even the 24, not only the 23 as mentioned here. And as mentioned, the resources, tools, APIs should be addressed adequately. The next steps are the adoption and the first work program preparation, to which my colleague Kimmo Rossi will come in the discussions during the day. But I would like to highlight at this stage as a new element that the public procurement will be used for the first 2 years, which means call for tenders and not call for proposals, which will require for you a different thinking in the application and the setting up of your ideas. But we will have opportunities to brief you on it more deeper. H2020 has been mentioned already in Vilnius. We are very proud and happy to see that together languages and big data were close to 20% of all submitted interests. So we will have a huge thematic session on the data enabling intelligence and content. And I'm very pleased and happy that Dr. Gördele accepted to moderate that session in Vilnius. We will have work program sessions and also networking sessions, 6, 7 on data, 2, 3 on language technologies, and would like to see you there also as active contributor. As a further speculation, if the expected planning of the H2020 call will come, I expect that we will have on 15th and 16th of January in Luxembourg an information and networking day or days on the two or different strategic objectives. You will get on time information on it, but you might already reserve this date. The stakeholder meeting point for the whole initiative and setting up the PPP We have planned the European Data Forum on the 19th and 20th of March in Athens. I hope you will put it in your agenda. And we are very pleased here that the language community is with a program co-chair there. And we are very happy that Nicoletta has accepted this role. So you can, via her, put all of your ideas at this stage there. We have the call of contributions open. Just to come to the conclusion, and I apologize by Georg, I am a bit over the time. But we believe that it is very important to support further the big data, because the future efficiency and competitiveness in Europe will be depending on coping with data, multilingual data floats. Those companies will be the future stars, which today's and the next days succeed and learn these. There are great opportunities, but also legal issues to set out. And hereby we would like to see and hear also your points, even sent to us via email, etc., to help to identify these and work on them. In the digital single market, as language barrier has been identified, we have to work on it together. And the European Commission is supported to continue the language technologies in broader sense, in resourcing and the technology itself. We need technology development, we need the resources, and we need an European common approach on it. We believe that the European Commission should support the infrastructure setting up, the technology development, but we need national and private sector contribution in the language resource funding, setting up, and collaboration hereby. With this, I would like to conclude and thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, my colleague Kimo will be here the whole conference. I will be here until tonight. So we are at your disposal to discuss if there are any questions. Thank you, and apologies for the standing.